What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. Switching gears here on the podcast today and jumping back into our NBA coverage for the NBA playoffs now that the NFL draft is over. The plan for the foreseeable future is all basketball. We're going to be breaking down the NBA playoffs every week, all the way up through the championship. And then we have 3 weeks of NBA top 30 before we get back into football. It's crazy that it's only a couple of months away. But the next couple months will be dominated by basketball coverage on this pod. So apologies to my dad. We are going to have a bunch of special guests along the way to help us break down the playoffs and do our top 30 voting and all of the fun things. But the plan for today's pod is that Matt is going to be joining me in just a moment to do a little bit of a recap of round one. We're going to do our annual draft of which round one loser's future would you like to have the most? Which team is in the best position moving forward? And I think we are going to have some stunners today. We have the Celtics, the Nuggets, the Rockets, along with other teams on the board. So we'll do that. We'll talk about round two a little bit now that we have one game of every series under our belts. We are recording this as the 76ers and Knicks are playing game two, and then the Spurs and Wolves play later tonight. So if anything crazy happens, we don't talk about it on the pod. Just know that's why. It's not our fault. But before we get started, just a reminder, you can reach out to us, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. Really appreciate you guys listening. We always love to hear from you. If you want to talk NHL playoffs, man, they're going strong. Still not ready to talk baseball, although my team is on the verge of sweeping the Detroit Tigers right now. Knock on wood. Maybe things are turning around. Fingers crossed. Certainly fun to talk shit to all my Detroit fans that I'm friends with, as I am wearing a Detroit shirt for the podcast right now in support of Matt's Pistons. We'll get there. Maybe time to talk baseball soon. We're about a month away from the World Cup starting as well. So all sorts of super fun things. You guys want to talk about that? Send us an email. I will email you back. You don't get any spam newsletters, anything like that. Just emails from me. And again, however you guys are supporting the pod, really appreciate you. Check out the pod on YouTube. Go and search Fouled Out Sports. Give us a like and subscribe over there to help us grow that channel. But for now, let's grab Matt. Let's talk NBA playoffs. Let's go. All right, Matt is here. I was going to say fresh off of round one of the playoffs, but we are one game of each series into round two. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
So much better than after the last game one.
This was almost like a really dark time for the pod because the last time that we recorded, what was the score of the series? Was one, I guess it was like 1-1, or was it? No,
either 1-1 or 2-1, and it was not in our favor.
It wasn't going well. And when the Pistons got down 3-1, and we planned this podcast where, you know, what we're going to do is go through all the teams who lost in round one of the NBA playoffs and talk about who we would rather be moving forward. I started writing this episode and I was like, oh man, because that series like started off as being like, oh, okay, the Pistons need to add a scorer. They should have had Malik Monk or Ayo Dosunmu or like all of these guys who got traded. And then it kind of started turning into like, are the Pistons frauds? And it went from like, you need to add Malik Monk to, do you need to add a second star? And I've been sitting on this for like 8 days. I was going to ask you and Devin if you would be willing to put Jalen Duren on the table for Devin Booker in a trade with the Suns. And I was like, this is going to be great podcast content. And then you guys came back and you ruined it. Ruined the podcast with your comeback.
I mean, look, if in the offseason you're telling me Devin Booker is on the table, I love Jalen Duren. Jalen Duren ain't stopping me from having a conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's fucking not Devin Booker.
Especially not now, because Jalen Duren, it's been weird because he's probably going to be second team All NBA or at least third team. And I'm watching these games and I'm like, I don't know if I'm voting this dude in NBA top 30.
He had a much better game yesterday in game one. I know that the points like lagged, but I think he was much, much more impactful. both offensively and defensively, even if the stats weren't there for most of the game. He just looked more like himself.
I mean, this is going to sound really dumb, but that's like the good thing about coming back from being down 3-1 instead of being eliminated is just think how much the conversation changes around your entire team. We're talking about the same thing with the Celtics today is like, think about the conversation about the 76ers and the Celtics and like how much those two things shifted by virtue of the 3-1 comeback. So it's kind of funny because for as crazy as round one was, with like multiple 3-1 comebacks and all these game sevens and all this crazy shit, only two higher seeded teams ended up actually going down. And it was the Boston Celtics and the Denver Nuggets, both of whom we will talk about today. But any like big overarching thoughts from the playoffs so far before we get into our draft?
First, I would say nothing has happened to change my mind on the stance that you and I both have had in the West. It all goes through OKC and San Antonio. Even with Minnesota winning game one, like I just am not really seeing them as a real threat to beat San Antonio in a 7-game series. In the East, man, like I would say looking at all of those series, despite the different seedings and the records, like the level of talent in the East, I think is so much closer, like 1 through 8.
Yeah.
It's so matchup dependent. I mean, I don't think that you can look at what Detroit did yesterday and look how they played in the series against Orlando and say that, you know, Orlando wasn't just a matchup problem. It's going to be really interesting as it continues through the rounds in the East because, as I said, like the matchups, they're going to make things kind of unpredictable from that perspective of like, okay, who should we expect to win? Because normally you're going to look at the seeding, right? And I think we kind of got to throw all of that out the window with what we've seen.
Yeah. I wrote down much of the same stuff. I said the NBA is who we thought they were. And I think like this is a good lesson for everybody who's not us, is that you learn, like people always say the regular season doesn't matter and like kind of we need to throw it away and it's playoff time and we're picking blah, blah, blah. I mean, we knew things prior to the regular season and then we learned things during the regular season. And so many people just threw out everything that we learned. So like the East is who we thought they were. The East is wide open. Anybody can win the East 1 through 8, honestly. And I think that showed in the first round. We had 3 game sevens, 2 series come back from 3-1 deficits in the East. And the Hawks gave the Knicks a hard time for a good portion of that series as well. So like, you know, I know the Knicks blew them out in game 6, like we've never seen before, but we knew the East was going to be wide open. And this was like the whole point of the Magic trading for Desmond Bane is they're like, look, anybody can win this next year. And that's proven to be true so far. The West is who we thought they were. I mean, coming into the season, I picked OKC to repeat as champions. What we learned through the regular season is that if any team in the NBA is going to stop OKC, it's going to be the San Antonio Spurs. And if they don't do it, no one is. And OKC is going to repeat as champions. And they are dominating in the playoffs, granted against much weaker competition. I agree with you. I still think even after the Wolves won game 1 of that series, I still think we're going to get OKC versus the Spurs Western Conference Finals. I am still leaning OKC in that series if it does happen, primarily because of playoff experience. And I think that's what really showed through for the Spurs in game 1 against Minnesota is like, from the perspective of Wemby just being like, you know, this is his first playoff, so he's still kind of figuring out like, oh, I need to dominate offensively right now. I need to dominate defensively right now. Like, you kind of like pick your spots like that and just also from the sheer fact that the Wolves are just going to beat the shit out of Wemby for however many games these teams play each other. And he's just not used to that. There was a stat going around that said that game 1 was the third most minutes that Wemby's played in an NBA game in his career so far. And it was only 40 minutes. So like it's a heavy load on him. It's a lot of games with no rest. I made the case last week that his concussion in round 1 could possibly be a good thing for them because he got a little bit of rest.
Yeah.
But I think it's just game 1 was just a different level of like physicality for him. And, you know, by the time you guys hear this, the game tonight will already have happened. It's going to tip off in about a half an hour. I expect a big offensive performance for Victor Wembanyama in a bounce back game and a Spurs win tonight.
Yeah, I will posit that, and this is something that we all knew when Wemby was coming into the league, but game 1 in this series for Wemby is also further proof that boy does he need to get into the weight room to continue to like maximize what he's capable of, because the playoffs are more physical than the regular season, and what allows you to finish through contact? Physical strength. And I mean, I know he's really tall and long, but I mean, look at him. he could put on a little bit more weight.
The Wolves too are a tough matchup for any team whose best player is their center.
Yep.
Like they're built to beat the Nuggets, and they beat the Nuggets with no Anthony Edwards for the last part of that series, and like 4 other rotational guys out because of like the size and physicality of their front line of that team. It's just different from anybody else in the NBA between Randall, Gobert, and Naz Reid. Like having 3 guys who can do what those guys do on both sides of the ball is tough for any center, and then back that up with like Anthony Edwards, and there's a reason the Wolves are a very good playoff team. They've been to 2 straight Western Conference Finals. They're trying to make it a third.
Yeah.
Even if they do get past the Spurs, I think pretty much all they're doing there is paving the way for Oklahoma City. And
they're
OKC's like, oh,
against OKC.
Yeah, you took our biggest problem out of the way. We'll just Oklahoma City could really go 16-0 in these playoffs if that happens.
It's very possible. A quick sidebar. Since we are on that series, I just thought this was really funny. I saw a graphic of the Athletics. They do that anonymous poll with the players in the NBA every year of like who players think is the most overrated player, and it had like the 4 highest like voted players of the last 4 years. Rudy Gobert was in the top 4 each of the last 4 years. And what makes that so funny to me is that poll is really more indicative of like who are the players in the NBA that players just fucking hate.
Yeah, Alperen Şengün won that this year.
Yeah,
for most overrated player.
Şengün, because
I've been telling you guys on the text thread, Rudy Gobert redemption arc. Beat Jokic, beat Wemby, beat Shea, and just right off into the sunset, baby.
If that happens, I will capitulate, but he's got some work to do.
The arc that no one asked for. And my last playoff thought before we go on to our draft was that whoever signed this deal with the streaming services to put games wherever needs to be sent to the gulag immediately. I have no idea what channel or app any game is on at any time. And I'm like, I'm really looking forward to Pistons Cavaliers game 1. And I like turn on the TV and go to the cable app, and it's not like I can't find it anywhere. And I'm like, okay, am I stupid? So I got to like every single game, I got to go on the Score app and click the game and scroll all the way down to the bottom and see what channel it's on. And it's like Peacock, no one has fucking Peacock, right? Peacock is like the worst streaming service. It's like you might as well put that shit on Tubi, or Vimeo or like Pleeboo or whatever there is nowadays. And I
I'd pay
say
for
this
any
during
of
the
those
NFL.
before I would pay for Peacock.
I say this, yeah. Sign up, everybody. Go sign up for Pleeboo with my code Fouled Out. That's definitely a thing. But I say this during the NFL playoffs every year. I'm like, I just absolutely refuse to download Peacock to watch an NFL playoff game purely out of principle. And it's usually just one game on Peacock, and I'm like, okay, I can get over it. I don't need to watch like whatever, Chiefs Dolphins or whatever stupid game they sell Peacock in round one. But this is like next level because it's like almost every night there's games on Peacock. And then if it's not on Peacock, it's on Prime. And if it's not on Prime, it's on NBC. And if it's not on NBC, it's on ABC or ESPN or blah, blah, blah. Just get your shit together. Just put it all in one place. Get it all together and put it in one place so I can watch basketball. It's infuriating that I can't watch like a good percentage of these games because it's on Peacock and I refuse to sign up for another streaming service.
It's funny because like the anti-monopoly laws are meant to like protect the consumer, but like in this circumstance, it actually is like it's taking advantage of the viewers, right? Because like now leagues are just like, we are selling games to the highest bidder and making it so that viewers actually have to spend more money to watch our product.
Yeah. Well, you make this point every year, and it's mostly like been a regular season point, but now it's become a postseason point as well. As the NBA is like, what if we just took our product and made it as hard to watch as humanly possible?
Yep.
Like, great. Because even like when it was on Prime, I forget which game it was. It was one of like the games of round one.
Yeah.
There was a technical difficulties. Oh no, it was the play-in game. It was the play-in game. They went to overtime.
With like seconds left.
Yeah, it was like 20 seconds left, and all of a sudden this thing came up that's like, sorry, we're having technical difficulties. And I'm like, did the stadium get bombed? What the hell just happened? I haven't seen one of those signs in my entire life. I'm 36 years old. That was like from the 70s and 80s, and it's just like the normal. And all of a sudden the game comes back, and I'm like,
I didn't realize the game was being played in Iran.
Yeah, I was like, what is going on? I was really worried that we were under attack. I ever tell you about my business idea for the streaming services? And I should say this for posterity because this will happen eventually, but I have two business ideas in life. One is that when the Washington Commanders finally get smart enough to know that Fighting Georges is the name that they should be using, that they will pay me my $5 million to buy the trademark from me. That's business idea one. Business idea two is that someone needs to, and I have no idea how you do this. I do not have the clout or power or know-how. I have like zero capability of making this a reality. But someone needs to take all of the streaming services and get them agree to like be in a bundle and sell people bundles of streaming services for like a semi discount. So like, what streaming services are what, like $10, $12 a piece right now for the most part, if you do like the ads version. And all of the streaming services want you to buy the ads version because they actually make more money off of you paying like $8 a month and watching all the ads than they do if you pay $20 a month. It's a dirty little secret. That's why it's so cheap. So what you do is you take like all of the streaming services and you say like, okay, we're going to get you guys subscribers to watch your ads and I'm going to sell you as bundles. So it's like, instead of paying $50 a month for Netflix, Prime, Hulu, and Disney Plus or whatever, you pay like $40 a month and you get all four streaming services, or you pay, $30 a month and you get your selection of like Netflix, Tubi, and Plebo and whatever. And you have everything is like all the shows go to one homepage and you get to pick what you want to watch and like do the sports package. And the sports package is like Amazon Prime, Netflix, Plebo, and Tubi, and wherever the fuck these games are. You just get to watch all the games. And that's it. Like you can only watch sports, but you can watch all of the sports that are on all the different streaming services. I have no idea how anybody can make that a reality. But if you do, just give me $5 million. So just for the idea, it's a good idea. It's basically we're just going back to cable, where you're just going to have every show like channels, but you get to pick what you want to watch when you want to watch it, and it's cheaper than signing up for 17 streaming services, including Plebo, so that you can watch the fucking Pistons and Cavaliers at 7:00 on a Tuesday. It's so infuriating. But
yeah, it's a mess, and I was right all along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just factually correct. Let's do what we came here to do, the draft of first round losers. So I explained it a little bit in the opener, but Matt and I every year go through and go back and forth and pick like who would you want to be the most out of the teams who lost in the first round of the playoffs this year moving forward. So our candidates from the East, the Boston Celtics, the Atlanta Hawks, the Toronto Raptors, and the Orlando Magic. From the West, the Houston Rockets, the Portland Trailblazers, the Denver Nuggets, and the Phoenix Suns. Last year when we did this draft, we talked about how the Pistons were the very, very obvious answer for who would you want to be moving forward. I feel like a number one seed, a second round playoff appearance, and various other things have proven that take to be correct. I feel like this year there's a super obvious answer this year as well. But I'm going to be interested to see how you ranked these 8 teams. You want to go first or second?
I'll let you go first. I'll let you take the low hanging fruit.
Well, let's see if you agree with this.
Yeah.
I think the obvious answer for who would you want to be the most moving forward is the Boston Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are a lot of issues that need to be addressed in Boston. But there are 2 things that you... What did I even write? Oh, so there are 2 things that you can't ignore. The element of surprise and our weapons of torture. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. There's 2 things you can't ignore with the Boston Celtics. One, they are the Boston Celtics. And that means that everything is probably going to be fine. That's just the history of the Boston Celtics. They're one of the winningest franchises, one of the biggest franchises in the sport. Thing 2 is that they have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And that gives you a lot of optionality for how you move forward if you are the Boston Celtics. So I have reached the point, I don't know how you feel about this. I've kind of reached the point over the last couple of days where I do feel like Jaylen Brown needs to go this offseason. They lose Game 7 to the 76ers. Jaylen Brown is live streaming after Game 7 with like 3 random dudes just standing in the background and talked about how this was the most fun and rewarding season of his entire career. A season where you blew a 3-1 lead in the playoffs is the most fun season of your career. When you have a season where you won a championship and were Eastern Conference Finals and Finals MVP, this season was more fun for him. He also talked a lot about how he really liked the way they played in Game 7. He's like, I really didn't like the way we played Games 1 through 6 of that series, but Game 7, I felt like we played with much better tempo. I like the style that we played with much more. So all he's saying is fuck Jason Tatum. Basically, that was his whole live stream. He's like, fuck Jason Tatum. I hate that guy. And I made this point months ago that my concern for the Celtics was not necessarily this year, although maybe I should have been more concerned for this year. But my concern for them with Tatum coming back from the injury was, how do they move forward? Because Jaylen Brown is like, I am the best player on this team. I don't even think you have to get like, people would be like, oh, if you get a couple drinks in him and get him to tell you the truth. I think he would just say that to your face. I think he would say it to Jason Tatum's face.
He's been saying that to Jason Tatum's face.
It's
for
all
years.
It's all he's been saying. And he's basically
since Tatum was drafted, like
this is my team, not yours. but he clearly wants his own team. He clearly does not want to play with Jason Tatum anymore. My opinion is that Jason Tatum is a better player than Jaylen Brown. So Brown would be the one I would
In a
trade.
vacuum, I would
Although
agree.
I think you can also make the argument Jaylen Brown is more important to the Boston Celtics, though.
I would argue that Jaylen Brown has showed up for this team in important moments more than Jason Tatum ever has.
Yeah.
So, my counterpoint to what you are saying about moving on from Jaylen Brown, all the things that he thinks is he wrong?
It is his team. You can't trade him. It's his team.
Like, is he wrong on any of that shit? Like,
yeah, but it's like, even if he's not wrong, I don't see how you move forward with these two guys.
There's zero chance they move on from Tatum.
Yeah, they're not moving on from Tatum whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it has to be Brown.
Honestly, if you were going to move on from Tatum, this is the absolute last point that you're going to do it, because it is the lowest value he will ever have.
Yeah. So there's been a rumor floating around about the Celtics potentially being interested in Giannis.
That is also like the rumors that I'm into Kate Upton. Like, well, no shit. Like,
well, I heard a trade today from Nick Wright. It's a 3-team trade. Jaylen Brown goes to the Atlanta Hawks, where he is from. The Hawks send young players and picks to Milwaukee, like a package that you would want in a rebuild, something like Dyson Daniels, Zachary Reese-Shea, some other guys for salary filler. But most importantly, they have Milwaukee's 2027 first, so they could give that back to Milwaukee along with some other future stuff that might be interesting. Milwaukee sends Giannis to Boston, and the thing that makes it really interesting, Boston has a $28 million trade exception that they can take someone into. So if the Milwaukee Bucks needed a little bit more, if they're like, hey, like, this is a great start, but we need more, Boston could take Miles Turner or Kyle Kuzma off their hands as well and take them into that trade exception. So that is something that is starting to be interesting to me. If I'm Milwaukee, where I'm like, okay, really like Dyson Daniels, would pick your other young guys from the Hawks that you want. So it's like 2 guys. It's like Dyson Daniels, Zachary Reese-Shea, salary filler, Milwaukee's 27 first, and then maybe they get some other first with some kind of protection on it. But then you also get to dump one of these massive salaries that's on your books for the foreseeable future. So that's kind of interesting to me. The thing with Giannis going to Boston is you would have to play a different style with Giannis because he's just not shooting all of those threes. Which brings me to my other point that, like, whether they trade Jaylen Brown or not and whether they acquire Giannis or not, I think Joe Mazzulla needs to be fired. And I know they won't because he won a championship there.
Yep.
But he's coached there 4 years. He won 1 championship in a year where they played nobody because the best player on every other team got injured the entire way through the finals, except for, like, when they played Dallas in the finals. But the other 3 years...
You know what Nico would say about that?
Yes. Nico's like, yeah, we didn't even have Anthony Davis yet. Our best player wasn't here. But the other 3 years that Joe Mazzulla's been the coach, they have lost in horrific fashion. I think the odds of the upset in those 3 series were something like plus 500, plus 900, and plus 1,000 that the Celtics would not lose. They've lost all 3 of those. And my thing with Mazzulla is just that, like, there's no backup plan for when the threes aren't going in.
Yeah.
It's like, all we're going to do is shoot threes. They had 6 straight possessions down 1 point in Game 7 against the Philadelphia 76ers, and they missed 6 straight threes. And, like, you had this whole year of not having Jason Tatum. You had 65 games without him, and you ran all this stuff, and you did all these different things. And then Tatum comes back, and you're like, okay, well, just back to our old classic Celtics offense,
Yeah.
like all ISOs, all threes, all the time. And it stopped working after Embiid came back and the 76ers kind of took off in that series. But like also game 7, so Tatum's out with an injury and he's just like, I have no idea what the fuck to do. Like here's Ron Harper Jr. and Luke Garza in the starting lineup. And like, he saw it wasn't working and pivoted from it early. But like if any NBA team should have been prepared to play without their best player in the playoffs, it should have been the Boston Celtics who did it for 65 games.
That did it the whole damn year.
They did it for 65 games this year. How do you not know what the rotations are? What the fuck is going on? Why are you like, oh, Tatum's out, we're fucked, let's throw a Hail Mary? What is that? What is that? Every year in the playoffs, we talk about the Celtics and how much I hate their offense. And it always ends up being their Achilles heel every year is that they got to shoot a billion threes. And I can't watch it anymore.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
And
I know they won't fire Mazzulla, but I would.
I'm with you on Mazzulla needing to be held accountable for that. But we also need to recognize that in the NBA, stars are the coaches, stars are the GMs, right? Like, and we do have that video of Jason Tatum telling the doctor while he's rehabbing, I ain't coming back to being a role player, right? Jason Tatum was never coming back to that team to fit into the system that they were playing. And when that team fundamentally shifted the way that they had been playing all year to fit Jason Tatum, they went from being a very real threat in the East to being a one and done. Yeah. And like that also needs to fall squarely on Jason Tatum. And it won't because of the injury and all that stuff. Like he's Teflon, right? Nothing other sticks to him. But like that's on him too. So
yeah. It's fair. I mean, it's on all of them, but like I still go back to the point of like if you're Mazzulla, you can't run horns action with Tatum in the lineup, like all the shit you were running all year. I know Tatum wants to play the way he plays, but like
Spain pick and rolls like all year long. And right, like it just disappeared.
Yeah, and I think you need to be like, as the head coach of the team, you need to be the adult in the room to be like, no, we're running our shit, or you are sitting on the bench. Like, you don't need to be playing if you can't be part of the team. And that's where, like, even though he's been their coach for 4 years, I think Mazzulla doesn't have the clout with the players to do that. And I think that that's a problem.
Yeah.
But also it goes back to your point, like, was Jaylen Brown wrong about anything he said? Where
no.
He's like, I really liked how we played more in game 7. And what he's saying is the same thing we've been saying for years, is that like when Tatum is not in the lineup, they just run a different offense and the ball flies around more and there's more actions and there's more this, that, and the other thing. And they need to find a way, like whether like Tatum doesn't want to play that way or they're just like, fuck it, we're playing ISO ball because it's like the, whatever the metrics say, we should do this. It's not working. And they need to find a way to like get Tatum to be part of the offense, not have Tatum be the offense. Because he's not like a Luka Doncic or like a prime James Harden where he should be ISOing and like be so heliocentric. And one thing about potentially trading for Giannis is like that would force them to run other stuff. Like they won't be able to run the same offense with Giannis. They'll probably try, but
I mean, there's a part of me that's hard to ever see Jason Tatum changing his mindset because of how much he idolizes Kobe Bryant. Like, like he's chasing that at all times. The irony is that Kobe Bryant would tell him to shut up and run the offense.
Yeah, please don't ever tell me that a part of you is hard on the podcast again. All right, who?
I said it was hard for me to ever see.
I know, but the way it came out or the way it sounded, you're like, a part of me is hard to see. It's like, I know you like the Celtics downfall, but calm down. I had a lot of thoughts to share on the Celtics. We've been talking about it a lot.
Yeah.
Who is team 2? This is where I started. My ranking is like, I think I have some takes in here, so I'd be interested to see who you have it to.
I'm gonna go with the Hawks.
Oh, that's who I had.
Yeah, there was
We're on the same page.
Yeah, I like what they have with the young talent and like Jalen Johnson emerging. They have some like financial maneuverability to their roster as well. They can definitely grow on what they've done this year. There is that upward mobility. And I think they showed like that, like the moment wasn't really too big for them in that series. Like, yeah, I think they were a bit overmatched going against the Knicks, who obviously have, outside of CJ McCollum, a lot more playoff experience, and just more long-term proven NBA talent. But there were the first half of that series, like the Knicks were kind of having fits with them. And for a team that I think most probably expected to be out in 5 games, like that was a tough 6-game series for the Knicks.
So I agree with everything you said, but you missed the most important thing that makes the Hawks number 2 on this list. Is that the New Orleans Pelicans gave them their unprotected pick in this draft for Derek Queen.
Well, there's the thing. I try not to think about New Orleans Pelicans like at all.
It's really, really hard for me to forget that. Then I think about it every day. I think about it every day. So, like, I agree. The Hawks, good, young, lots of interesting pieces under contract for the foreseeable future. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was a revelation for them this year. Jalen Johnson, really interesting player moving forward, like how good he's going to be, and is he a 1 or a 2 or what? But they have New Orleans unprotected first in this draft, which is the number 7 slot in the lottery that's going to take place this Sunday. If the Hawks get like a top 4 pick and add DeBansa or Peterson or Boozer or Wilson or one of those dudes, like that is like, if you put AJ DeBansa on this Hawks team, that is very interesting all of a sudden. They also next year have the rights to the less favorable of the New Orleans Pelicans and the Milwaukee Bucks picks, 1 through 4 protected. So that's good shot at them having another top 10 pick next year. And that's the pick I was referencing earlier in the trade that Nick Wright proposed, where he's like, yeah, they could just give Milwaukee their pick back, basically. And just like a reminder to everybody that might not know this, the lottery rules are changing next year, where if you have a top 10 pick, you all have like an even shot. And if your pick is like, it's like 4 to 10, you have better odds of getting the number 1 overall pick than if you are picks 1 through 3. So that is like, that asset has now skyrocketed in value for next year as well.
Yeah, I just cannot get behind that change at all.
I hate it. It's not official yet.
It's literally going to increase tanking. Like, look at the breakdown and tell me that, like, there are just going to be more teams that are like, oh, let me get in that 10 slot.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's for people who might not have seen it or read about it. It is the option that the NBA is leaning towards adopting is that like the odds would be flattened 1 through 10, except if you're a top 3 pick, 1 through 3, you lose lottery balls. So picks like 4 through 10 actually would be flat odds of having the best chance to get the first overall pick in the draft, or a top 3 pick, or however they're going to do it.
And
so you'd be punished for being super bad.
Yep. And like I texted you earlier, this also gives the NBA plausible deniability for when a better team falls into that 4 through 10 range to just choose who premier prospects are going to and be like, oh, well, they did have the highest odds. Oopsies.
Yep. Oops. It allows them to rig it even better.
Yeah.
So it's not officially adopted yet, but that does make, if that goes through, that asset being 1 through 4 protected becomes, more interesting, I think. And like, because it have to, if it lands 1 through 4, it's protected, so you don't get the 1 through 4 pick, but like you have, even if it's like the 10th lottery slot, you have the same odds of getting the 5th pick as you do of getting the 10th pick, basically. So it kind of makes it interesting. All right, team 3. So we were on the same page, 1 and 2.
Yep.
I am going to take the Houston Rockets for team 3. I don't know if that was the other team you were considering or not.
It was not.
So Houston, for a lot of the same reasons as the Hawks. My problem with Houston is like the Kevin Durant thing is really weird.
Yep.
And all of their like,
why I'm not there.
I know, but I'll tell you why I am there in a sec. But like, they came into the season as like, wow, young team bursting with assets and talent, and they can make huge trades and blah blah blah. And I feel like a lot of the shine has worn off of their young assets. Like we just mentioned that Alperen Şengün was voted as the most overrated player in the league. The Thompson twin that's there, it's like starting to question if he's a max player or not, even though he's a great defender. Reed Shepherd didn't play this year, like all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, he's the second best Thompson defender.
So a lot of the shine wore off a lot of their young assets this year as far as like the on-court thing. And that's, speaking of coaches who need to be fired, Udoka probably needs to be fired again because he is the reason that a lot of those assets have declined in value this season because of his clogged toilet offense. So it's called.
I'll say this time for basketball reasons.
Yeah, this time for actual. However, very similar to the Hawks, the Houston Rockets still do have a lot of interesting assets coming up as far as picks are concerned. So in 2027, they have Phoenix's unprotected first still. They also have the right to swap their pick with the Brooklyn Nets. 2029, Houston receives the 2 most favorable of their first, Dallas's first, and Phoenix's first. So it's not as good as the Hawks, but like you have some interesting picks coming up depending on what happens. Like, could you, if Devin Booker was on the market, is that someone you could swing a trade for? Which, like, hysterical reuniting him with Kevin Durant after everything that happened in Phoenix. But like, you have Phoenix's unprotected first next year. Is that something you could trade along with some other stuff? So like, I think there are still trades on the table for Houston, even if their package is like not as appealing as it was a year ago. But also, I think like you could kind of talk yourself into, okay, we didn't really have a point guard. Fred VanVleet's going to be back next season. We can add some depth at the guard position. We have these picks coming up. Like, I don't think they're in that bad of a position, although the loss this year was pretty nasty. And I think they're like already at the point where they're like, do we need to trade Kevin Durant somewhere else?
Yeah, I just, as long as Kevin Durant is there, I kind of don't care what else they do. Like,
Yeah.
it's that big of a problem. I know it was just an example. There's zero chance that Phoenix is sending Booker to Houston. If they trade him, it will be to the East.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Matt Ishbia is just flat out against the idea of trading him in general. With public comments that he has made. So,
Yeah. But there are other trades on the table for Houston. Like, could they be a suitor for Jaylen Brown, who we talked about with Udoka there? Like, could, grab Jaylen Brown? Are they were in on Giannis? Could they still be in on Giannis? Like, I think there are deals to be made because they have the extra ammo and they do have young pieces. So, who are you taking for team number 4?
I'm going to take the Toronto Raptors. There are definitely some stuff roster construction wise that I definitely think they still need to improve upon. But man, I just look at the way Scotty Barnes plays. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to keep getting better. Was he ever going to be like a top 5 player in the league? I don't know. But like, he's already trending towards being a very, very good all-around offensive player. And he is a problem on defense. Pretty much regardless of who your best player is, unless they're like 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
He's just...
I think he showed that he can be a guy again as well. Like he won Rookie of the Year in a year where he was drafted with Cade and Evan Mobley and Jalen Green. And he kind of fell off after that. And I think that this was like a really big step for him. He was 24, 6, and 5 in the playoffs, a PER of 23.2 and a true shooting percentage of 60.5. It was unstoppable on both sides of the court for large portions of that 7-game series against Cleveland. So I think that's important. Colin Murray Boyles also flashed for them a lot this year and was very good in that playoff series as well.
Blanking on the other kid's name, the guard that was really good on defense. Oh, Shed is a defensive weapon.
There
are a few guys that are actually that in the NBA, and he is one.
Yeah. I had Toronto 4th on my list as well. So we're kind of in lockstep except for Houston so far. But my thing with Toronto, so I have them, spoiler alert, I'm going to take the Portland Trailblazers next. But I have them slightly over the Portland Trailblazers because they are in the East and don't have to deal with like OKC and San Antonio directly in the playoffs every year for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
But my problem with Toronto is Scotty Barnes showing that he can be a dude is massive for them. And Colin Murray Boyles look good and Shed look good and all this stuff. I also look at their salary table and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing with these contracts? Because they still owe Brandon Ingram $80 million for the next 2 years. They owe Quickly $97.5 million over the next 3 years. And Jakob Poeltl, his extension hasn't even started yet. They owe him $76 million for 4 years.
Yeah.
Their salary cap is so fucked because they're also paying Scotty Barnes $48 million a year for the next 5 years, which is yes, that's the one dude you should be paying.
Worth it. Yeah.
One dude you should be paying, and you're paying all these other guys so much money. I think this is another team where there's a trade to be made. They have all their own picks. They don't have anybody else's picks, so it's fine. They were in on Sabonis at the trade deadline, but the Kings wouldn't take Jakob Poeltl's contract back because, again, his extension hasn't even started yet and he can't play NBA playoff games anymore.
Well, I
But
mean, he's perfect for you guys.
I mean, that is the type of player that we would try to get.
Yeah, like if he can't play NBA playoff games, then like you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, but apparently what happened is like they offered RJ Barrett Jakob Poeltl in 2 seconds, and like thank God our guys came back and said, listen, either Jakob Poeltl needs to be out of this, or you turn those seconds into first, and that's where we hit a wall in negotiations. But that's absolutely what you should say if you're the Kings. Thank God. But I think there are trades to be made. The big salaries for some of these guys actually could potentially be helpful in making trades because of like all the rules about like the money's got to match and like all this bullshit that you got to do with all the apron stuff. So we'll see what they do. Team 5, I already spoiled it. I am taking the Portland Trailblazers. Cap wise, they're better off than the Raptors are moving forward. So I considered putting Portland above them, but again, they play in the West and they're probably going to have to deal with San Antonio and OKC every year immediately for the foreseeable future, as long as they make the playoffs. There are only 2 big contracts that go out over the next 2 years are Shaedon Sharpe and Kamara. The problem, I mean, so they have they're paying Drew Holiday a lot and they're paying Jeremy Grant a lot, but those end in 2 more seasons, so it's not that bad. The biggest problem with Portland, and if you were going to be the GM of Portland, is that you have a new owner who is just speed running, becoming the worst owner in the league as far as just not being willing to spend any money on anything. There was numerous stories about like he was the only owner who would not pay to fly their 2-way guys to away playoff games. He refused to pay for late checkout for his team at a hotel, so they all had to leave the hotel early and wait extra before their game against San Antonio. He gave out like towels instead of shirts. Every other team gave out playoff shirts, and he gave out playoff towels because they were cheaper. And he is thinking about not bringing back head coach Thiago Splitter because he doesn't understand why he has to pay over $1 million for a head coach. And I look at all of that, and then I look at the decisions this team is going to have coming up, where Denny Avdia, and so like Scoot Henderson has 1 more year on his contract. Denny Avdia has 2. What do your extension offers for those guys look like? Like, I mean, I think like it's fair to knock Portland down a couple spots purely based on this one question.
Yeah.
Are you paying Denny Avdia a max?
Yeah.
Because he's going to demand it.
He would be stupid not to with what he's done. Because if you don't do it, if it was you, someone will give it to him.
Right. But if it was you, would you want to be paying Denny Avdia a max deal?
No. And like, I think that is kind of just the NBA at the same time. Like, look at all the contracts that Tobias Harris has earned in the NBA. Like,
I know.
Right.
Well, the good thing
he's
for
always
them is
been overpaid, and then like somewhere along the lines, like actually no, I'm like actually really glad we have him. Normally,
yeah. He was really good. Tobias Harris was really good closing out the Magic.
Oh yeah, he was.
Give him that.
We don't win that series without him.
Yeah. The good thing for Portland is that Avdia has 2 more years on his deal, so you can kind of make sure this isn't a flash in the pan before you hand out that money. But like, I don't know if the new owner is going to be willing to shell out that kind of money for any player.
Like, why do I have to pay a star player more than $1 million?
He's like, I don't understand this. But like, your head coach gets arrested by the FBI like one game into the season, and the assistant coach steps up, and you have the best finish you've had in 5 years, and you go to the playoffs, and you play decently against San Antonio. You even win a game.
Yeah, on the road.
And on the road. And he's like, yeah, I don't feel like I should pay for that. Like, good luck, Portland.
Well,
who are you taking
Tiago,
for
welcome to Boston.
Yeah. I don't hate that. Who are you taking for Team 6?
There are a couple of teams that have higher level stars, but I don't like where they sit as well beyond that. I'm gonna take the Magic. I know it's a bit of a hot take, but I'm gonna start this off by saying, given I know that blowing the 3-1 lead looks really bad. I don't know that getting rid of Jamal Mosley was the right move. Because the coaching decisions that he made in that series are why they had it to begin with. Jalen Suggs eventually, like, offensively proved to be a liability for them. Because he's just not a well-rounded enough offensive player. But the way that Jamal Mosley was weaponizing Jalen Suggs to, like, we talked about how Jalen Duren was like MIA for pretty much the entire series. And it was because of the way they were using Jalen Suggs. For a good portion of that series, thoroughly outcoaching JB Bickerstaff. More to where they are now. They are a team that plays very physically. They already have a strong defensive culture. Paolo, I feel like, has done, short of, winning that series, like, I feel like he did as much as he could to kind of establish himself as a bona fide number one on an NBA team that wins games.
He had a 45-point playoff game against one of the best defenses in the league.
Yeah. And like, it wasn't like he was like cooking guys for open shots. Like, there were a lot of hands in his faces and contested shots that he was just drilling. I think Franz, before he got hurt, also like really stepped up. I feel like he has taken a lot of heat over the last couple of years because I think he kind of took a bit of a step back, but I think he found himself a little bit more in that series and started being a bit more aggressive too, which, like, he needed to be. And so I think there are things to work with there that, like, you can build a strong team around. It's just they don't have any picks because they spent everything to get Desmond Bane. But, like,
yeah,
you do have a high potential perimeter threat in Desmond Bane. Like, when he gets going, there's not a whole lot you can do. But, like, if they can find that piece as a starting point guard that's more reliable for them, there's something to work with there.
My problem with the Magic, so I had them 7th.
Yeah.
And my issue with them is, like, this is it. This is your team. You have $222 million already committed for next season. The second apron is $222 million. So you're already at the second apron for next season. They have some team options they can decline, and they probably will to get under that.
Mm-hmm.
But then you still got to fill those roster spots. You have no picks. to trade. The
Yeah.
Desmond Bane trade was your all-in trade. So like this is your roster for the foreseeable future. They actually they are the most locked in roster of any roster in the entire NBA. They have $212 million committed for the 28-29 season. That's not next season. That's not the season after. That's 3 seasons from now. They have $212 million committed, and that is without an extension for Anthony Black yet. So, like, this is it. And I think that brings up a lot of hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
And
they need to bank on Anthony Black, like, continuing to develop. Like,
that's I think if you
everything for them.
I think if you work for the Magic right now, you're talking yourself into, okay, Franz Wagner got hurt in that series, and if he had been healthy, we would have won that series. Whether that's true or not is up for debate, but that's what you're telling yourself to go to sleep at night, because this is your team next year and the year after that and the year after that. Mm-hmm. Unless you have a difficult conversation and say, do Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero, however you say his name, do Franz and Paolo fit together on the floor? And sometimes they do, and it looks amazing. Sometimes they do not at all. So, if you were going to make a deal, I think that's your move.
Yep, and so I feel better about having that situation than I do, like, with the Nuggets or the Suns, where it's you have one dude. And you have some ancillary pieces around them, but like any of those guys have anywhere close to the value that Franz does right now? No. Like, no one's giving up much for Dylan Brooks. I'm going to take the team in at this point down the board that has more pieces.
That's fair. I had the Denver Nuggets 6, so I will take them as our next team. This is tough out for Denver, because they have Nikola Jokic, who is still one of the best players in the entire world, but this team with this core just feels completely done to me.
Yeah.
Like, the window is closed. That is it. This year is basically like best case scenario for them. They were the 3rd seed in the West. Unfortunately, they lost in the first round to a Minnesota team that was built to beat them. But when you are like locked into this roster, so they have $215 million committed for next season, and that is with no Bruce Brown, no Tim Hardaway Jr., and no Peyton Watson, who, like, Peyton Watson became a super important dude for them this year and was like really good for them, and is going to go get paid in free agency. And really where they fucked up is they paid Christian Brown $125 million over 5 year, an extension that has not started yet, for a dude that averaged 8, 3, and 2 against the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first round. So they paid the wrong dude. They're still paying Jamal Murray over $50 million a year. It actually gets up to $60 million 3 years from now. So it's over $50 million a year for the next 3 years, including 60. I think it's like $59 million at the end. The first apron is $209 million next year, and you have 5 guys who could not beat the Wolves without Anthony Edwards, Ayo Dosunmu, Dante DiVincenzo, along with other pieces. Those 5 guys that are your starting lineup for next year are already under contract for $188 million. And you cannot trade a pick until 2034 because of the rules of not being able to trade picks in back-to-back years.
And I know some would argue that Jamal Murray is still a valuable NBA player, and what he did in that series, I think he shot I think it was 39% from the floor. It was bad. And that has kind of been his calling card, is I have the big games and high pressure situations. And quite frankly, he's been a guy who's had a number of injuries over the years. So there's a real question of has the wear and tear finally just taken its toll on him? Like, is he just physically not the same guy? Because that, like, it was only a matter of time before that eventually happened with him.
If you were paying Jamal Murray like half of what you're paying him, I'd be like, yeah, that's solid. If you were giving him Christian Brown's contract, but you're paying so many dudes who cannot win you playoff games at a high level so much money. I actually was looking at it. Jokic has 2 years left on his contract. And like I think that's the other part of this, is that even though you have Jokic, we talk about this every year. It's like nobody would be surprised if Jokic was just like, yeah, I'm retiring and going to race horses the rest of my life, like at any time.
Yeah.
So like you don't have him after 2 seasons. And I was like, God, I was thinking about how to get out of this. Would you consider trading Jokic? Like 2 years of Jokic for like a massive fucking trade package in return? Like you trade him to the Hawks and you get, a bunch of those young players, New Orleans unprotected first this year,
I was gonna say
first
like,
they have next year. Like
just trade him to New Orleans for their remaining unprotected firsts.
Just all of the unprotected first. I mean, I don't know that it's even possible to put a deal on the table that's interesting enough to get fair value for Jokic, but like just looking at where they're going to be the next couple of seasons with him, it's like, yeah, this is like 3rd seed is best case scenario because you're not going to be better than the Spurs. You're not going to be better than OKC. You also can't match up with the Timberwolves because they are going to beat you every time. They have no fear of Jokic, and they like beating them without Ant is like just I don't think you come back from that as far as like psychologically next time you match up with them.
No,
so it's like 3 teams. There's 3 teams you can't beat in your own conference. And then also 2 that are far better than you.
It's also not just that they lost to them. It's that they lost to them. And like McDaniels came out talking hot shit, like right off the bat about them. And like everything he said came to fruition. I mean, I don't know how that doesn't leave its mark on a bunch of players. Maybe they take it personally, hit the gym, get in the lab, everyone just comes back better. I too like to dream. But
well, everybody's like, they're missing Aaron Gordon. He's such an important piece for them. Like, the other team is missing Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? This is insanity.
The other team is missing an elite 2-way player. Like
one of the best players in the league, along with Dante DiVincenzo, who's important to them, and Dusanmu, who dropped like a 40 burger on the Nuggets in that series. And yeah, what a series for Jaden McDaniels, man, to talk all that shit and then back up every single thing you said. And then like go face to face with Jokic and just be like, I am not afraid of you. Like, I don't think there's any coming back for Denver from that. But that leaves our last team, the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
You want to do it or do you want me to do it? Because I have a good rundown of why they're last.
I mean, they have Devin Booker. I like that. I don't like a whole lot else. I mean, Matt Ishbia is one of the worst owners in the NBA. I mean, you highlighted earlier that they don't have their pick coming up, so I mean, you can go into more depth, but it's all bad.
So much worse than that. It's so much worse than that.
Oh yeah, because they have more picks that they probably gave up to get Kevin Durant. Yeah.
I'll oh no, it's even worse than that. Let me read you what's going on with their next couple of picks. So they have this year's pick. They owed Washington a swap from the Bradley Beal trade, but that's obviously not going to happen this year. 27, Houston has their unprotected first. 28, they get the least favorable of Brooklyn, the Knicks, and Washington in a swap. 29, Houston can swap with them. 30, Washington can swap with them. 31, they owe Utah their first pick unprotected for 2031. So they don't have the rights to their own pick until 2032. That is 6 drafts that they do not own the rights to their own pick without a swap.
So they're in a slightly worse situation than Dallas.
Can I make matters worse for you? They are paying Bradley Beal, who is not on their roster, $80 million over the next 4 seasons. They are paying just under $20 million per season to Bradley Beal for the next 4. While they have no cap space, they might lose guys who are good for them this year, like Colin Gillespie was really good for them. He's going to be a free agent. They have a couple other guys like that who could be leaving. And if they keep those guys, they're probably going to jump into the luxury tax to run back this year's team that was an 8 seed and got swept. Not great. We had 4 teams that were eliminated in the play-in tournament: the Hornets, the Heat, the Clippers, and the Warriors. Would you rather be any of those teams than the teams that we mentioned?
Yeah, all of them. Honestly,
I would probably, I'd rather be the Hornets than I think a lot of teams we talked about today. Like, I'd probably put the Hornets like 3rd on this list, like maybe behind the Celtics and the Hawks.
yeah. Yeah,
They have a good young.
Yeah. I think all of those teams are ahead of the last 2. For me.
I think I'd rather be Denver than Golden State or the Clippers. The Hornets are the
Clippers
team.
just keep finding a way, though. Like,
I know, they really do. They just do. But the Charlotte has a 2.4% chance of getting a top 4 pick in this draft. And I'm like, dude, if you get a top 4 pick, I would probably shoot Charlotte all the way up to number 1 on this list of like teams I would want to be going forward, because like you're going to run back this team from this year with LaMelo Ball, Con Knipple, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, and Diabate, the center. All those guys are under contract. You have cap space as well. They're about $15 million under the cap for next year right now. So you could bring back, like, Kobe White's going to be a free agent. You could bring him back. You could do something else. But if you take that team and add like AJ DeBanza or Cameron Boozer to it, I'm just going to be like, holy shit. Like, that is a great team. And it only 2.4% chance of happening, but that would skyrocket them up my list. The Clippers do have a chance to get Indiana's pick if it doesn't fall in the top 4. We will find out a lot of this weekend because the lottery is on Sunday, which is Mother's Day. So shout out to all of the moms out there. You guys rock. Keep doing your thing. I will be very likely sitting on my couch crying on Sunday because this can't possibly go well for me as a Kings fan. Man, if we don't get a top 4 pick, it might like actually break me. That might be the limit.
What if you get the first pick?
It might also break me because we're going to fuck it up. There's no good outcome for me. But that is it for us.
It can't be worse than the second pick.
Yes. That's where you would be wrong, because we could pass on all of them. They're like, we really like Darius A-Cup. I'm like, I like A-Cup too, but not like this.
Yeah, second pick is just trauma, though.
I know. I'm talking myself into, and I knew I would do this, but I'm like, if we could get a top 5 pick and get like Caleb Wilson or Darius A-Cup, like as long as we don't move down in the lottery, it'll be okay. But if we could move into the top 3, I would be so happy. Insert Craig meme. But that is it for us. As always, Foul Deck can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Overcast, and you can now watch the podcast on YouTube, go search Fouled Out Sports. Give us a like and subscribe over there to help us grow that channel. Matt and I will be back next week breaking down round 2 of the NBA playoffs. Got a good one going on between San Antonio and Minnesota right now. So the Knicks already won game 2, so they're up 2-0 over the 76ers. Thank goodness, because if the 76ers, led by Joel Embiid, ever make it out of the, well, not led by, but with Joel Embiid on the team, if they ever make it out of the second round of the playoffs, we have to cancel the pod. That's it. That would be the last episode of the pod. Just done.
Well,
San Antonio and Minnesota playing right now. So
the 40-point loss in game 1 kind of quelled any concerns about that for me. So
I don't know, man. The way the East is this year, like the Knicks are probably going to go up 3-1, and we're going to be like, no, don't go up 3-1. It's too dangerous. So, but all right, my friend, I will see you soon.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Bye,
Bye,
now.
Robin.